Good afternoon. We are going to talk about the Groningen Protocol, and the team is formed by David, Jose, and Andres. The Groningen Protocol contemplates a form of active involuntary euthanasia. Since the infant is not able to request euthanasia, the act is inherently involuntary. Dr. Berghagen describes the medical case that started the process. In his role as a neonatologist, who is kind of pediatric, they are the ones to take care of the newborns. He was caring of an infant girl with a rare disease called Hallopell-Siemens syndrome. And the infant's skin continually sloughs off, forming scar tissue. Dr. Berghagen watched the girl making little fists, and her body go through a lot of pain that normal medication could not relieve. And her parents, the girl, asked Dr. Berghagen to stop the pain of the girl and to sleep her, but he denied, and he sent the girl to his house, to his home, and after 6 months she died. After this case, Dr. Berghagen becomes an advocate of the infant euthanasia in extreme cases, and he developed the Groningen Protocol. In the protocol, Berghagen stated that there are 3 groups for whom the protocol might be considered: infants with no chance of survival despite life support, infants with no minimal chance of survival with a life support and with a minimal quality poor life if they survive, and unfortunate infants who are not dependent on life support, but for whom a very poor quality of life is anticipated. The history of development. Prior to the initiation of the Groningen Protocol in Netherlands, the infant euthanasia was done but not discussed publicly. In 2002, the ministers of the big company of medicines formed a committee to discuss the amendment to the penal code, which legalized physician-driven euthanasia. For infants, however, euthanasia had been considered homicide. Between 1997 and 2004, 22 cases of infant euthanasia have been reported to the district attorney. And in November 2005, the Netherlands formed a committee which was composed by a physician, an attorney, and an ethicist to review these cases. After the meeting, they proposed some regulations for the kids who can be Groningen Protocol applied. And the regulations were these ones. The first is there should be no doubt as to the final outcome to the disease. There has to be intolerant suffering that cannot be relieved with conventional interventions. An independent physician that is not related to the family has to come with the same conclusion, and the parents must give informed consent and must be fully informed of the diagnosis. And in September of 2004, the Groningen Protocol was finally accepted.
Well, to meet the Groningen Protocol, doctors should have a clear understanding of what are the rights of the disabled people. In this case, it is really the Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities that states those principles. That is respect for the inherent dignity, non-discrimination, respect to difference and acceptance of persons with disabilities as a part of diversity and humanity, equality of opportunity, respect for the developing capacities and children with disabilities, and respect for the rights of children with disabilities to perceive their identities. But unfortunately, kids and child are not conscious about himself or herself, and neither doctors nor parents know if the child of the infant wants to live in the way that they like. So the doctors choose the three circumstances that my friend Jose tell us that are those three scenarios. In this case, the infant does not have a chance of survival. In this case, the doctor can say to the parents with the prognosis that the child getting into born is not going to live. So if the doctors with several approvals and after a committee or consensus of other doctors says that the child or the infant is not going to survive, so it is rejected, and then it is as a default to proceed to the Groningen Protocol. In the second scenario, where in those two scenarios is where the definition of quality of life is being damaged by this protocol, because in the second one, intensive care to survive with poor prognosis. Remember, we don't know if the child wants to live as they are living with those issues, health issues. So we can maintain the child or the infant with some mechanisms like feeding tubes and other machines that allows them to breathe. So this the definition of quality of life is missing. In the last one is where miracles can occur, because infants with hopeless prognosis of survival, we cannot say that the child is going to die the next week, the next month. There are only approximations, but they are refuted by other recommendations and quotations of other doctors. So that is the condition that state practically the Groningen Protocol. Those are the conditions. The diagnosis and prognosis are both unmistakable. So the parents have no authority to change what was the prognosis or what was the final result of the analysis. Irremediable and unbearable suffering are present. That is clearly understood. The parents have been informed beforehand and have consulted. That is the recommendation of another doctors, not only of the actual hospital that is carrying the case. The medical diagnosis and prognosis have received independent confirmation by at least one doctor. Remember, this is not the doctor that is from the hospital. The procedure to be followed conforms to the medical standards. It depends on the country that it is handled. And finally, a report is submitted to an authority responsible for verifying adherence to procedure. That is the legal issue that the doctor and the hospital should have to handle. So, in these steps are resumed the procedure of the protocol, of the Groningen Protocol, that is concerning the diagnosis and prognosis. They are compiling all the data, all the relevant medical data about the child and the prognosis. The second, the decision to practice euthanasia. Naturally, it is actually for infants, some of them in Holland, and Germany and Netherlands that they withdraw the feeding tubes or some service that keep alive the child. The consultation is the recommendations that give the other and other doctors to follow the steps of the euthanasia. In this case, could be active or passive, depending on the country. Implementation is the act of killing the baby. And finally, a step to take after the death that are the legal issues that could have the doctors, and the final resume reporting to the authorities.
Okay, I'm going to talk about two cases. The first case is the Schuheim case. Okay, this case was the first case reached about the Groningen Protocol on July 16, 1982. This case was about a 95 woman that has a fractured hip, so she could no longer walk, sit, and also she had problems with her eyesight and hearing. She had a deteriorating. So she went to the court and she asked to die because she don't want to live anymore. However, the court rejected what she was asking. So she has two sons, a son and a daughter. So she asked them to kill them. So the son injected her drug in order to kill her. After she was dead, the police, this case was to the police. So they say that that what her son did was very bad. So he started arguing about the case that her mother doesn't want to live anymore and she want to die. However, the court in Amsterdam rejected the case. So she also sent them guilty, their son, and he went to the jail. And the other case is the Cumbias case. Well, this case is about George and Betty Cumbias. They were the first couple, the first Canadian couple that completed simultaneous suicide with legal authorization. However, after 50 years of being married, they decide to die together. So in Canada, it's prohibited the assisted suicide. So they went to Switzerland and they present the case. However, there's only one problem. And Betty, the wife, she was a healthy person, and the wife, George, has a heart disease. So in the Groningen Protocol, it is prohibited and have assisted suicide with a healthy person. However, they talked to Ludwig Mileni, that is the director of the group Dignitas, and they present the case. They wait until they receive the final answer. However, in 2009, Betty, the wife, died because of cancer, and the husband George is still living with his heart disease.
We're going to show a video about a kid whose